The presenting sponsor for OnEducation is Classcraft. We're excited to announce Classcraft's new story mode, which makes it easy for educators to harness the power of stories. Episodes 1 and 2 of Season 1 are ready for you and your students to play today, and it's completely free. To learn more about Classcraft and the new story mode, simply visit classcraft.com/oneducation.
Dude, I'm coming in for a hug, and I don't care. Welcome to OnEducation, part of the Education Podcast Network. I'm Mike Washburn.
And I'm Glen Irvin. Friends, we have an awesome pod for you today. This week, we're going to discuss whether there's an overemphasis on preparing our students for those jobs that don't exist yet. On this week's segment of The Best, we'll run down some of our best gifts for learning at home and with your family. And our guest this week is educator and author Rachelle Poth.
Let's see if I know how to do this.
All right, you're back.
It's like getting on a bike. Apparently,
yeah. Yes.
You don't forget. We've been okay. We did the interview already, and I didn't screw up anything, so I think we're all right. We should start with updates. We got lots going on. It's like we're back, and there's no rest.
No.
So Impact Education Conference starts this week.
I know. This weekend, we're getting super excited to be able to go and meet all of you guys. Make sure you come by the booth. And if you haven't registered for the conference, they can still do that, right, Mike?
Yeah, I have no doubt that they can still register for the conference. You can probably still even register for our podcasting workshop. By the time you hear this, you'll only have a day or three to register, but it's $75. You get to spend the whole afternoon with Glenn and I talking about how to podcast in your classroom. You will literally leave with a podcast. Well, we're going to demand that you leave with a podcast, and we'll kind of set you up with the means to do all of that.
Yes.
So hopefully you come and join us for the workshop if you're coming. We also are working with one of our sponsors, Fidgets, on a high school educators giveaway. They're giving away their sensor kits. I think we're going to get about 100 of them. So if you come by the booth, you talk to our friend Connor, who's going to be working with us. He's going to show you how to subscribe to the podcast and sign up for our mailing list. And when you do all that, you're going to get something for free.
Man, I love it.
How bad can that be? You get to listen to the best damn podcast in the world, and you get some cool geeky electronics at the same time. I mean, that's a win-win-win, everybody. Holy crap.
Triple win, baby.
Right? Man. We're going to start talking about FETC a little bit more now that we're kind of gearing up for that. And I guess one of the things to put on everybody's radar is the cool Epic Games, FETC Epic Games party that is being kind of hosted by Steve Isaacs and myself, related to Unreal Engine and probably more relevant, Fortnite in education. There is so much stuff going on with Fortnite. I can't share even half of the stuff that's happening, but a lot of cool stuff is happening. There's a giant contest happening right now with a $25,000 award for basically writing a lesson plan. I mean, it seems like you guys know how to do some of that stuff. So come on, people, write up some lesson plans. Take a look through either Steve's Twitter feed or my Twitter feed, or frankly, a lot of people have been sharing it, but the contest details, we'll put them in the show notes as well. But we're going to also put the Eventbrite link to this Epic Games Educator Network party that's being hosted. There are very limited spots left. I believe it was full at one point, which is awesome. I mean, first off, that's amazing. Sold out. But I believe that we were able to convince them to open it up for a few more spots. So I don't know what the status is now, but at some point, we opened up some spots, and so come to the party. If you're coming to FETC, this is going to be the place to be. At least on Thursday night. It's Thursday, January 16th, 5:30 till 8:30.
Man.
Be there.
Cool. Miami
Beach.
Oh my
Listen,
goodness.
guys, we're going to talk about video
ridiculous.
games on Miami Beach. It can't get much better than that. It's going to be cool.
The ultimate nerd
Right.
experience. That's what it should be called, in quotes. So, Mike, I was thinking about this. You're back, and you're back from one of the places in the world where, I mean, talk about a go-to destination, you know, a bucket list destination, China. So I was like, okay, I got to ask him some questions, like kind of, what did you do, kind of recap, and then, you know, tell us kind of what was your favorite things that you saw or you did or whatever might be, your experiences or whatever might be. And then I want to talk about, because I saw some of your Twitter posts about food and drink.
Oh man.
And then obviously telling us whether or not you would recommend to us that you would go, that we should go there, or, you know, all those kinds of things. So start off with, what did you do?
All right. The main purpose of the trip was to visit with one of the companies that we deal with, MakeBlock. They are probably the largest in terms of like capital investment, in terms of like value of the company. They're the largest educational robotics company in the world, and we deal with them exclusively in Canada. So they're big, and they basically we were there for two things related to MakeBlock. They run what's called MakeX. It's a global robotics competition. It's very popular. So think like first Lego League. So similar to that in the sense that there's an arena, and it's mainly it's kids, and it's very glitzy, and it's a thing. It's a big thing. It's very popular in Europe and in South America. It's only really not popular in North America, and that basically speaks to the dominance of First, and how popular the First Lego League is. That MakeX hasn't broken through, but we're learning more about it, and hopefully at least bringing it to Canada next year. So we went there to watch. I got to watch the finals, the World Championship finals of the MakeX competition from the arena floor. So first off, the finals were held in an arena, so about the size of like this is going to be hard. I don't know what the comparison is in the United States, but like a junior hockey arena in Ontario seats about 5,000 people or 5,000. So. Okay. Yeah. So it was in like basically the size of a junior hockey arena. And it wasn't totally full, but there was a decent amount of people there. And so we were on the floor though, which was super cool. And actually, if you go on my Twitter account and go to, I think there's a place where you can go to like videos. I periscoped most of the finals, so you can see how kind of cool it was to be there. It was like about a 45-minute periscope that might be worth checking out, because it was pretty neat to see like the television interviews and like the boom cameras, and like there was lights and lasers and like a huge screen that it was all like there was color commentary and like and like play by play. It was wild. So that was kind of the main reason we were there. And then MakeBlock had their global kind of distributors conference. It was like a one-day set of meetings, and Rami Gaddis, the owner of Logix Academy, did a little speech, and we actually won an award, which we weren't seeing. We didn't know was happening at all, but we won MakeBlock's best global STEM solutions provider, which is, you know, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, they have distributors all over the world, they consider us the best. So that was pretty rad. I mean, we won they gave us a cash award, and we got a pretty sweet trophy, and it was pretty neat. So we met with a bunch of other folks, partners, companies, people we don't deal with, people we do deal with. And it was it was definitely a work trip. There wasn't a lot of sightseeing, and kind of that's what we were there for sure. Yeah.
So as you got to experience any part, because you landed in Hong Kong and then you went to mainland China.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite parts? Because I mean, that's got to be a crazy immersive experience.
Yeah. So, it's hard to verbally explain how absolutely massive some of these cities are. I've tried to, like, for everyone out there, like, especially if you haven't been, imagine the biggest city you've ever seen. Most people will say something like New York City or LA. And some people would say like Toronto. So even LA is pretty relatable in this, but I'll talk about Toronto. So in Toronto, there's the CN Tower, which is huge, and then there's probably about 3 or 4 skyscrapers that are about 100 floors high, which is a very tall building. Like that's tall. And then there's about 5 or 6 maybe that are about 80 floors high. And then kind of the rest are in the 60 floors high. And that's kind of similar to most urban cities that even I've been to. There's the 4 or 5 standout towers, and then there's some mid-range, and then most. But think about that core of buildings that are big, and stretch that as far as you can see in every direction. Like literally as far as your horizon will go. And that's what Guangzhou and Shenzhen look like.
Wow.
Like when you look out the window, all you see is 80-floor skyscrapers in every
so
direction.
Intimidating. Yes.
Every direction. It is a monolith of a city that is. It's beautiful in its weird sort of way. It's absolutely stunning to look at. We arrived in Shenzhen our first night very late, much later than we were expecting. Customs, going through Chinese customs is crazy.
I bet.
Scary and intimidating, even, for lack of better words. Not fun at all. But once you're through, it's like big sigh of relief, and then okay, we're here and everything is fine. We're not going to get arrested anymore. But when we finally got to the first night to the hotel we stayed at, and the hotel didn't start until the 23rd floor. So like there were 23 floors before the 50-floor hotel that we were staying in. So I was on like the 60 some odd floor. And I opened these giant windows and looked outside, and I just was breathless almost. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, it's just, like I said, as far as you can see, 80-floor buildings, as far as you can, and they're all lit up, like with like giant like Chinese lettering on the sides, lots of like, it's like that core of Manhattan that you think of with like the signage and like the billboards and stuff. It's a lot like that, but everywhere. And again, on all of these buildings, it was. I shared a couple pictures of it. It's absolutely stunning. So by far, my favorite part of the week and a half or so that I was in China was we did on the second night we were in Guangzhou, which is just a bit north of Shenzhen. So there's Hong Kong, and then Shenzhen is just across the river. So we didn't even actually go into Hong Kong, the city, at all. We stayed in the Hong Kong airport. You take a ferry from Hong Kong, and it goes kind of around a couple islands and right into Shenzhen. So you're in mainland China, and you don't even leave the airport. And then Shenzhen is right at the bottom, right across the river from Hong Kong, and then you drive about an hour north to Guangzhou. We took a bullet train, so I've never taken like a high-speed rail train before. It was about so it took about 25 minutes to take what would normally be about an hour and a half drive or so, and it was fast. Like, it was exactly what you think it would be. It was incredibly fast, and everything just flies by, and you don't even realize what you're looking at sometimes.
Crazy.
But the second or third night in Guangzhou, we went right into the city. So we were on the outskirts at a pretty nice hotel on the outskirts, but we went into the city. And again, it's one of these like absolutely massive cities, skyscrapers as far as you can see. But there was something like, so Shenzhen is like the it's like the Silicon Valley of Asia.
Yeah.
So it's very high tech. The buildings are all very new because Shenzhen was like a little fishing village in the 1980s. Like, had 15,000 people living in it, and now it's 15 million people or something like that.
Jeez.
So all the buildings are less than 30 years old ish. but in Guangzhou is a little bit different. I found it to be more like a capital city. It almost looked like there's a lot more gardens, a lot less, or a lot of big kind of expansive, epic spaces that we walked through. The walkway from so they have their own tower called the Canton Tower. It's taller than the CN Tower. I believe now at this point, I think it's the second, or I think it's the third tallest building in the world. And we went up to the top of it. That's where my new my new Twitter profile picture is, from the top of the Canton Tower in Guangzhou. And then we kind of went down, and then we took the subway to a space that you can kind of see from the tower, but it's like this causeway. It's almost like the mall in Washington D.C., where you go kind of from the Capitol building to the Lincoln Memorial, and if you turn to the right, you go to the White House. It was very like expansive, like wide walkway, a causeway for
awesome.
walking, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the lights, and then we went on a boat tour of the river that kind of runs through that city, and just the skyline is stunning. I've never seen anything like these cities. So I've been told that Shanghai and Beijing are the other two cities that are similar. But like Guangzhou has 15 million people in it, so there are half as many people in Guangzhou as in all of Canada.
Oh my goodness!
For context,
that's crazy,
right? So I mean, the scale of everything. Nothing is small in China. That's, I think, the one thing that one of the funny phrases I took away, and you laugh about it eventually, because they just don't do anything small. Everything is massive and giant, and they're very proud. That's, I think, one of the interesting takeaways I have too. They're very proud of who they are. They're very proud of where they're from. They're proud of their food. They're proud of their lifestyle. Even a lot of them are very proud. Like in the same way that Americans are proud to be American, Chinese are very proud to be Chinese. And I think that that's a context that a lot of Americans, and me too, like Canada doesn't have the same kind of flag waving proudness that America has. We differentiate on that quite a bit, and that's fairly well known. China is very proud of what they've accomplished, and while I am in no way defending anything that they do, that's, we know the bad things that they do, and how they govern and stuff like that, but most Chinese want to show you what they've accomplished, and they're very proud when they talk about it. So it's not, you can frame some of this stuff in the whole narrative of wanting to prove their dominance over people, and like they build towers because they want to be the best and stuff like that. But I think they also just build towers because they're proud that they can, and they've accomplished, like this was a country that, 100 years ago, New York City was building the Empire State Building, and there were towers in New York City already. China was still basically a third world country. And how far along they've come to build some of these places is absolutely stunning, and a stunning accomplishment. They really want to share with you, the things that they've done, and how well they feel like they're doing. And the companies are very proud. Like the people that we've dealt with, as far as the businesses, are very proud to be, Chinese businesses, and they talk about that in a way that you can tell that they want the world to give them some credit for the things that they're doing, kind of thing. There's an interesting social dynamic there, and there's some weird, interesting, so a weird tidbit. And I was warned about this. Thank God I was warned about this, but. It is a thing of pride, though, when they hand you their business card. So you're in business, you have business cards. I have business cards. Whatever, you give someone a business card. They hand it with two hands. They hand it with two hands. Like they hold it up and they hold each side like that, and they'll hand it to you with two hands. And then you're expected to receive their business card with two hands. And and you'll find that the hotels will do that too. They'll give you your hotel key with two hands. And so there's this weird kind of respect thing going on, even with business cards. For being obviously incredibly communist, they're incredibly good capitalists. That was the other thing that my other big takeaway was that these guys know how to do business, and you shouldn't kid yourself that they are. The conflicts are abound with the Chinese in terms of like their focus on, like, I mean, most people work like 6 days a week, and are working incredibly hard, constantly. And it was all of that was pretty interesting. The business side and the way they work, and them wanting to show us the city and the sights was pretty interesting stuff. Food. You want to talk about food? Oh boy. Yeah.
Well, you're like a guy. I mean, if people don't know you, I see you as someone that has a large palate as far as different types of food.
Sure.
You're into them. Mm-hmm. And it's not even just on the protein or whatever might be side that people would be like, okay, of course, steak and blah, blah, blah. But even on vegetables and other things, you're like passionate about food in general. So I was like, okay, food and drinks. Cause you wrote some things like you were like, ugh, about certain things. And then certain things maybe, were like amazing.
So the first night we got to Guangzhou, which is it seemed like a lot more of a traditional place. The hotel restaurant was very traditional Chinese. And the two fellas we were with, so it was Rami and myself, and then two of the guys from Make Block. One of the guys picked from the menu. First off, the menu was a novel. Like, I'm serious. It was like easily almost an inch thick. And it was in a giant book. We're talking like a legal size paper size book. Very heavy. Like when she put it down, when the server put it down on the table, it went boom. It's like putting like this giant ancient tome of food on your table. Because everything has pictures. Mm-hmm. Ordering food is incredibly complicated in China. Like even for the Chinese, multiple times did we have people come back and like clarify our orders. I didn't understand what they were asking, but I could understand that they were saying, okay, do you want it like this or do you want it like this? Not in the same way as we say I'd like the sour cream on the side either. Like in like these more technical ways, they were asking for clarifications on preparation, which was wild.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I didn't particularly like my first meal in Guangzhou. I didn't like a lot of the stuff that was ordered. It kind of made me mad because I pride myself, like you said, on being a bit of a foodie. I'm having a pretty open mind. But in particular, some of the fish preparations were a little bit gross to me. Those are the things that I was having a hard time dealing with. And even some of the meat stuff was interesting. A lot of the pork stuff that I had was like mushy pork, like they had like mushed it up with like a masher before they put it into whatever the hell they put it into. It was in different ways, but it was always like this mushy meat that really was like a gelatinous texture that I wasn't enjoying very much. It was funny though, the second night I went out for dinner with the same first guy that ordered at the first restaurant, but with his boss, so a different guy. And this time I took control, which, is really strange when you're, I didn't know I was just looking at the pictures and guessing what it was, but I took the menu from the guy and I was like, no, I'm ordering this time. And so I went through, and everything is shared, right? Like you're not ordering a dish for yourself. You're ordering shared plates. Yeah. Every meal I had was like a shared meal type experience.
Cool.
And so I ordered 7 or 8 different things, and they bring them out on like the big giant Lazy Susans, and put them down so you can spin the table around and grab out whatever you want to grab at the time you want it.
Pretty cool.
And I enjoyed the second meal much more, even though it was still, a lot of it was very traditional Chinese, but I understood, the preparations and the style, and it was good. I enjoyed it a lot. Almost always my favorite parts of my meals were the way that they prepared the bok choy in particular. I had it almost every meal. First off, it's everywhere. But the ways it was prepared, like with garlic and ginger and stuff like that, was always absolutely fantastic. And the pho was awesome. Like, I had it for breakfast almost every day. There was like you know how like at different hotels you'll have like an omelet bar, an omelet station where you like put the stuff in a bowl and then you give the bowl to the person, and they mix it up with the egg, and then they ring your bell or whatever when your omelet's ready, or you just wait for it. They had that, but with pho. So you would put the stuff, whatever you wanted, mushrooms, bok choy, whatever, and pick your type of noodle, put it all in a bowl, give the bowl to the preparation person, and they get it together for you and then give it back to you.
Awesome.
So I had noodles like every morning for breakfast, which was absolutely fabulous. What else is really strange? I didn't the coffee was fine, but the milk is different. Milk is a lot, at least the milks that I had were all like quite a bit richer, quite a bit thicker, like not like a 2% milk. There was like a 7, like your 2% average, or your normal like 1%, 2% milk was like a 5% milk, and you could taste
whole milk.
You could totally taste the difference. So the food was interesting. The fried rices were all really good. I had some Chinese sushi, sushi prepared. It was still Japanese, but there's like a Chinese take on sushi, and it was all really good. The sushi was good. I love sushi, so had that a couple times. The food was interesting. I kept saying to my wife that she would have hated it. She wouldn't have eaten like hardly at all. So if you're like a chicken fingers and French fries type person, or like if a fancy meal for you is spaghetti and meatballs, China's
then don't go.
China's not gonna go over well for you for food, because there's a lot of fishes with heads still on them and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So for our audience out there, would you recommend it as a bucket list item?
So maybe. It's tough. I'll say this. I would be fine not going back to China now that I've been. Right. I would, but it didn't deter me from going to other Asian countries. Like, I would still love to go to Japan. Absolutely. I would still go to like Taiwan or Korea, South Korea. So it didn't deter me from the culture. I didn't find the culture shock as strong. I think that other places, other people in other parts of other countries may. Like, for example, Toronto is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in or cities in the entire world. That's pretty well known. So, and I worked at a school, the private school I worked at was like 60% Chinese. So I'm not, I didn't find the culture shock as strong as other people had warned me. And certainly while I wasn't picking up on the language or anything like that, I was picking up on like tone of voice and style of conversation, quite a bit easier once I'd been there for a few days. Like that clarification about food, for example, I could tell that was like a preparation clarification. Do you want something cooked in this instead of cooked in this? And how do you want it served to you, kind of thing, as opposed to just like the basics, can I have some ketchup on the side type question that you would get in. I would suspect that the average person, who wasn't used to those types of cultures, who wasn't living in an area of either your country or my country that was used to diversity, would have found a lot of that culture shock pretty strong. Coming through customs, even for me, coming through that Chinese customs at the
thinking about.
At the Shenzhen ferry was scary as hell. Like
Yeah,
it was intimidating.
Be unique. Yeah, that part's got to be unique.
They all have guns, and they're all, they all look kind of mean a little bit, and it was different than going through, the customs at, Pearson International Airport. In fact, when we were leaving, going through the Chinese customs when we were leaving was so much easier, because I think that there's like an internationalized exiting customs that's different, because they realize that people, are going home, and it's like they treat them maybe a little bit better. I don't know if that's the case, but I definitely felt less intimidated leaving than I felt coming in. And I felt that hour or so that I was in the customs area of the Shenzhen ferry terminal was pretty scary. I'll be honest. It was pretty wild.
The part that I was thinking about that I think would be the most intimidating about what you just finished describing would be how the population density, that part would freak me out.
People everywhere all the time.
And I mean, you're used to, you live near a ginormous city. I'm not really a city person. I would never want to live in a city, but I guess if you're from Los Angeles or New York, or you live in a big city and you're used to urban life, and then multiply that times, like you just said, times
Hundreds.
a lot. Yeah. And then you're used to that, what it feels like to be in the middle of this ginormous city with tons of people, tons of things going on at the same time. That part I would find super intimidating.
There was a massive amount of people, unimaginable amount of cars. The driving is terrible, Glenn.
Oh,
I've never seen such bad driving in my life. Like I had to
You've never been to Latin America.
I had to close my eyes. I have actually, and I remember the driving being bad in the Dominican Republic as well. But I had to go oh crap and close my eyes more than once in being driven around by a cabbie or whatever. It was pretty bad. It was scary.
For those of us that like to conform to rules, when stop signs and stop lights and yield and those rules, they don't apply.
No,
that's when things start getting a little fishy in our brains.
Especially like the turn signals and the lane changing is the craziest one for me. Like they would thread needles changing lanes. Like I've never seen. I saw a guy go from like 1 lane to 3 lanes over, swiping between cars. We're talking with like less than an inch to spare, and doing that without even thinking about it. Just boom.
That's how it goes.
And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" That's the other part that Cheryl would have been like, "Nope, I'm out.
Thanks.
Peace, have fun." I would never bring Cheryl to China. I think that she wouldn't. I'm glad that I went, and I know that my wife wouldn't have enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so that's China.
And
now I'm back.
That's a good China recap. That was good.
Yeah, it was. There's so much, and every once in a while I might bring something up later because I'm thinking about it a lot. But it was pretty interesting. What's next here? You saw an article that piqued your interest.
Yes, it was by one of your fellow Canadians. I think he's a Canadian because I think he actually spoke at the Impact Education Conference just a few years ago. Yeah,
nice.
It was called Tizen, and he was one of the keynote speakers. Dean Sharesky. That's how you say his last name?
Dean Sharesky. I'll have to admit, actually, it's funny. We get to meet a lot of people, and we know, like, all of the people that like the names of the people, like the Alice Keelers and whatever. We would consider a lot of these people our friends, and don't get kind of, wowed, for lack of better words, by some of these folks anymore. But I totally fanboyed when I met Dean Sharesky for the first time. I won't lie. It was at Austin, at LearnFest in Austin last summer, and he was there. And he's the only person I ever went like, "Hey, Dean," and then I didn't know what to say.
Then it got really awkward.
And then I totally went in for like a hug. I'm like, dude, I'm coming in for a hug, and I don't care. And he was like, okay.
It's like, who is this guy?
Yeah, he knew who I was. He actually came and introduced himself to me, which was probably what made it a little even more awkward. I wasn't expecting that, but anyways, Dean Shareski.
Yes, so Dean Shareski, he tweeted a link to another article from Forbes magazine, and the title of that article is called "The Myth of Jobs That Don't Exist Yet." And it's a really good read. I would recommend anybody to go ahead and read it. As you read through the article, you're encountering several different things. Basically, one of the tweetable things that you can actually tweet right from the top, it says, the idea that any significant portion of today's students will take jobs that don't exist yet is a myth. And that's a super hot take. I mean, so hot. It's flaming hot. But as you get to the bottom of the article, that's why you want to read through the entire thing. And I'm just going to kind of preview the bottom for you. He actually makes a statement that I think contradicts kind of this whole, there's a bunch of hot takes throughout the entire article, but at the end it basically says that schools are doing an outstanding job right now, number one, which I like that part. But then he says something, it says, and to the extent that any future jobs are in transition or under development, schools and students alike are wise to invest in good foundations of education. But here's one of the things he says. Right now, we're doing a great job in things like critical reading, communication, creativity, and collaboration. But I always think that the premise of saying that we're preparing students for jobs in the future. Do you know what I mean, Mike? As far as is the premise of hold on, we don't know what those jobs are going to be, but what can we prepare them right now? Well, it's these things he just talked about at the end. Yeah. It's the communication, creativity, all the 5 C's, collaboration. It's those types of skills. So it's an interesting article, and I thought it was an interesting point, especially we just had also a great conversation with Noah Geisel, which on a different episode you guys are going to be able to listen to it as far as our conversation. But I actually don't think that we talk about this enough.
I agree.
I think it's the exact opposite of what this guy's like, like ticked off at the world, or the edu Twitter world, let's call it. Yeah. Because we're talking too much about those jobs that don't exist yet. Hold on a second. We're not talking enough about those things.
Yeah.
And I actually was just thinking back to how I'm not even prepared to speak enough about these topics, because I actually am right now consuming tons and tons of information. I remember just probably within the past year, Mike, people didn't know who Andrew Yang was, the guy that's running for president in the United States. But you told me about him, and you said something about his minimum
UBI,
I can't remember what
Universal Basic Income.
Universal Basic Income. That was the first time, Mike, that I had ever heard that phrasing, Universal Basic Income. Yep. That was about a year ago when he was barely on the horizon of whatever might be.
Look at him now.
That's how, but not only that, that's how uneducated I was about not only universal basic income, but the concepts that Andrew Yang talks about, which is, I'm so happy that that on the debate stage, he's actually speaking to this concept about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the impact it will have 9, 10 to 20 years from now.
Tomorrow.
But in a few years from now, it's happening right now.
It's happening right now.
On the jobs that we currently just kind of take for granted that you can go ahead and do. And one of them that really struck me, I was listening to him on another podcast, and he was speaking about truck drivers.
Yep.
And if you ever get a chance to listen to listen to Andrew Yang speak about truck driving, and not only his capacity for like knowing and understanding that profession, like he's actually spoke to truck drivers. He's there on the ground, and then he understands the economics of it and how impactful it is in the United States, and then how soon that job will actually cease to exist for humans to do.
10, 15 years.
And just that one segment, he just talks about, he said, you don't understand how many people do that and how great of a job it actually is, and how unprepared we all are, including us as educators and politicians, anybody, and those truck drivers are unprepared for what's about to come down the pipeline. And we don't have a plan for it to be able to take place. So when someone says that we're exaggerating this point, that the myth of jobs that don't exist yet, I couldn't disagree more. I don't even know, I mean, I'm going with this guy. I'm like, is it because you think that we're exaggerating this point? Because you're wrong. I think we don't speak about it enough.
His main complaint in the article is about the actual numbers and the lack of citation. Like it's a complaint about the substance of the reports or whatever. He's not, I mean, you can't argue with the fact. The fact is there are jobs that don't exist right now that will exist in the future, and there are jobs that exist now that are going away very, very soon. You will, and I think that the reason why this conversation needs to happen, and God bless Andrew Yang for and I'm not if I was voting in a primary, for the record, I wouldn't vote for Andrew Yang, but I think that his voice needs to be at the tables in the future, because I think he's nailed this topic. It's like listening to Bernie Sanders talk about universal health care. Andrew Yang has nailed this topic, this UBI idea. And a lot of what he's saying about that is bang on.
Yes.
The biggest problem with the jobs of the future is that the jobs that are being outsourced the easiest are the jobs that are typically associated with lower education levels and poverty. People who work at who go to get a job at McDonald's are getting a job at McDonald's almost always. And I mean, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. This is absolutely true. Most of the people who get a job at McDonald's are there because they don't have a university or college education. I'm not saying anything crazy there. And they are associated with lower income levels and levels of, on the poverty scale. That has a lot to do with the fact that the minimum wage is ridiculously low, and paying people who work 40 hours a week a wage that they can't live on. It's a totally different political conversation right there.
Sure.
But the fact is that those are the jobs that are also being eliminated. They're like, hell no, we're not going to give you $15 an hour. We're just going to replace you with a machine.
It's already happening right now.
McDonald's,
everybody. McDonald's.
All the McDonald's in Barrie have kiosks.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
what about your grocery stores? Remember, I don't even know if people remember. I mean, I'm 44.
Yeah.
I clearly remember the job of a person at the grocery store, not only packing your groceries, but taking it out to your car and putting it into your damn car.
Why would they do that now?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That job existed, and it was awesome. We all took it for granted. Now we're freaking scanning our own damn items.
Yep.
Guess what that means, though? That's what I'm saying. All these people,
it's one person
right
monitoring,
now.
and it's one person monitoring 6 or 7 machines, as opposed to 6 or 7 people plus 2 or 3 people rotating between lines to bag the stuff, and then like you said, the carriers that they had, these jobs don't exist anymore, and this is going to get worse. It's
worse
or better. I mean, depending on the way you frame it. I mean, but that's what makes this conversation so important, is that it's only worse if we're not prepared.
That's it,
right? It's only worse if we don't prepare our kids for a future where they have to understand that these jobs that exist now will not be there for them. You're not going to be able to fall back on a manual labor job, because there won't be, for lack of better words, I'm not
or a truck driving job.
Right.
It currently exists. It's one of the highest paying jobs. It's the highest paying job. I think he rated it that all you need is a high school degree to be able to do it.
$80,000 a year driving a truck.
it's as much as I get paid.
Yeah.
And it's a great career. And a lot of them are self-employed.
Yep.
Like they basically own their own
Yep.
truck, their company.
100%.
They get to make their own decisions. It's a super brutal job. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's a freaking hard ass job. But you can do it and you can earn a great living, a upper middle class living in the United States doing that job until it doesn't exist. And that's the scary ass part. And that's only one job that Andrew Yang is actually talking about.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
And yeah.
So I'm not, I mean, the article is ridiculous just in the sense that it's harping on this 85% number. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Make the number lower if that's what helps you sleep at night. Whatever. I mean, seriously, the number is big. It's the number of automated jobs is huge. I mean, I don't know how you cannot see this because it's happening already. So, I mean, obviously middle class jobs that can be automated are going away. Thank God. These similar studies have also done studies on teaching, and education is one of those roles that is not easily automated. We know why. Obviously, there's a personal aspect. There's a touch that teachers have. A personal relationship with students that makes a significant difference. But there is tons of jobs that are just disappearing, and the future jobs are going to be the roles that develop the software and technology and the manufacturing means to create these devices and tools and robots that do this work. I think as long as we work with that mind, I think it's a good future. If we can get people to not have to haul rocks, on their backs, or pave things and stuff like that, like manual labor. If we can get a machine to do manual labor, that's a good thing. The narrative of it being a bad thing is because it's someone's job. The idea of the job itself and someone else and a machine doing that's a good thing. Where it's bad is because someone's going to lose their income because they're not doing it. So we just need to find ways. This is why universal basic income is important, because it's giving people a basic income to offset for the fact that these roles are no longer going to exist. I would encourage everyone, Yang doesn't need to be your guy.
It's a super important concept, though.
But
read it.
He knows exactly what he's talking about. Go listen to him on. I think he was on Rogan, where Rogan gave him like all of the time in the world to explain it. Sanders on Rogan is also very good, by the way. And so go listen to Andrew Yang. Go listen to him in the debates, because he's not getting a whole lot of time, but I think the time he's getting, he's using well. And I think that there is a role in labor or commerce for Andrew Yang in almost anyone's administration. There absolutely should be, especially the more left candidates like Warren and Sanders. I hope that his voice is someone that doesn't go away when he inevitably, I don't suspect he's getting the nomination. So, I'd like to see his voice at the table, though. Super interesting stuff. When we come back, we'll have the bests. We'll tackle some of the best Christmas presents you can give for learning with your family and at home. So stay with us.
OnEducation is brought to you by FreshGrade. Are you spending too much time stumbling between apps and duplicating work? Want to spend more time connecting with your students? FreshGrade Next has powerful new lesson planning tools that will give you the flexibility you need to focus on engaging and inspiring your students. FreshGrade Next is designed for teachers and made for learning. Integrated, simple, and powerful. To learn more about FreshGrade Next and sign up for your free account, visit freshgrade.com. OnEducation is brought to you by Sourcewell Technology and the Impact Education Conference. Join Jimmy Casas, Angela Myers, Michael Cohen, Jordan Shapiro, the OnEducation podcast team, amazing featured speakers, and thousands of educators December 14th through 17th in Minneapolis, Minnesota for the region's best education conference. Register now using promo code OnEducation2019 for $30 off your registration. Also, with every registration, you'll receive a free book of your choice from one of the amazing speakers. To register for the conference, visit impact.sourcewelltech.org. That's impact.sourcewelltech.org.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. The Bests is taking the world by storm, and we're about to start our second list because everyone likes lists. So welcome to the Bests, and this segment is the best. Christmas is coming. Christmas is very soon. Less than 20, like 15, 16 days away. Holy moly.
Yes.
So people are shopping out
Better
there.
get going.
I mean, I'll be honest, I won't start shopping until probably about the 21st.
I thought you were going to say the 24th.
No, the 21st is a Saturday, so that seems like a really good day to do some Christmas shopping. So we wanted to get this list in for you folks before you go out there, and maybe you're thinking about some last minute things. And we got some ideas on if you want to extend learning into your home or with your family. These are the best gifts for learning at home and with your family. Mm-hmm. So I started. We got 9. They're in no specific order of preference. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you the first. Let's say I'll give you the first 3 or 4. I'll give you the first 4 because I started thinking about this from like a technology perspective. But I like where Glenn went as well, and I'm all in on all of this stuff. I think all of these, the 9 that we're going to give you, are absolutely fabulous. So the first thing that I thought was educational robotics. So a lot of these robots that are popular are available at retail, especially in Canada. So like you can go in Canada to a Best Buy and buy a Dash. You can go on Amazon and buy a Dash robot. You can buy a Sphero. You can buy Spheros at a lot of retail in the United States as well. And these are pretty substantial learning opportunities. You can have fun with them. You can play with them. They are absolutely toys in a lot of cases. But, we know that they're used in schools and that there's a lot of educational opportunities there. And the same goes for number 2, which was Osmo. So for anyone who doesn't know what Osmo is, it's an app that is on your iPad, and there's a little attachment that kind of goes on the top, and it scans down on the surface as you interact with different things, devices. There are some add-ons, and I couldn't tell you what all of the add-ons are, but Osmo is very, very popular. You can buy it. I think you can even buy it, to be honest, at the Apple Store. But it's certainly available pretty widely at retail as well, and fairly inexpensive, especially for something that's moderately high tech.
Nice.
I mean, inevitably, we were going to bring up playing video games. So I mean, it would
the best game of all time.
It would never hurt for you to buy your kid Minecraft. No, and actually, just announced today to make it not to make it timely. So this is on Monday, the 9th of December. They actually just announced that the PS4 version of Minecraft is going to be the Bedrock edition. They're changing it over to Bedrock. So now the Switch and the Xbox and the PS4 are all going to be cross-play and running on the same version of Minecraft starting very soon. So that's actually good. That means that the PS4 version is going to get things like the aquatic update and all of this other stuff as well. So Bedrock version is the at least they're trying to make it the more universal version. So that's a good thing. So you can buy it for anything now at this point and get a similar experience across all of the different platforms. And then finally, I'll end my 4 here that I had written down with, I mean, something that's obviously a little more expensive, but if you're looking for that one big gift to give one of your kids, I mean, Isaac, our oldest son, has an iPod Touch. And he's been using that for games and for talking with his friends and stuff like that. And an iPad or an iPod is a great gift. You can buy them an Android tablet, though I don't know why you would want to possibly do that. Hashtag hot take. But certainly any sort of tablet device, there's obviously, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's about how you use it.
Yes.
The idea of getting your kid a tablet should not be something that's crazy or something you should fear, as long as you use them smartly and responsibly and actually treat them like they are, which is an interesting opportunity to learn as well.
Yes. And I was thinking about just games that I've had really, really positive experiences with as a family.
Yeah.
So there's and I'm talking about specifically about board games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against competitive games, and one of these games is a competitive games, but there are times when it feels like that actually there are winners and losers. And sometimes I want
Monopoly.
us as a family. Yep. I want us as a family to be able to battle against something. In this case, the game itself, and then either come out victorious or we all lose, kind of thing. Yeah. And that's kind of games like, if you've ever heard a game called Forbidden Island, and there's another game called Pandemic, and it's basically you as the players against the game. And you can set up different parameters for as far as the difficulty level. And it's super enjoyable experience. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old. And then, of course, my wife plays, and even my in-laws have played. So we're talking about cross-generational, and we're all playing against this game. And it's super awesome to listen to us as strategize, all from the 7-year-old all the way through my 60-some-year-old father-in-law, all talking towards beating the game. It's super awesome. There's another game that Mike and I have enjoyed a lot, and I just absolutely love this game. It's called Splendor. It's easy to learn. Any kid from a young age to adults will have fun playing it. Just a great board game. So I just put family board games, specifically ones, go try to find some of those that are, that it's everybody's working together versus working against each other. Then I put something random on here because I was like, one of the gifts that my kids absolutely love, and I think we as parents forget about how much kids love this, is paper. I just put paper and art supplies.
Yeah.
And then places to get ideas from, which are books. We are big fans of like Dungeons and Dragons books, just places to be able to let your imagination go wild, and then letting them draw things out. And like your kids too, they get super excited about building levels. So they become these game designers where they're just kind of writing things out and inventing their own characters and whatever it might be. And all of that hyper imagination is super amazing. What a inexpensive cost, and what an amazing things that you can go ahead and do. And they've done so much with that, with paper, art supplies, and books that just will spark your imagination. On a techie side, I was thinking about this. A lot of times we don't give our kids enough credit, and me and you know that our kids are actually able to do things that we don't even know that they can do with video editing and music editing. So programs like Adobe Premiere. So not just the cheese. I don't have anything against iMovie, and it's great for a beginning entry level thing. But if your kid really gets into it, you can do so much amazing things with things like Adobe Premiere Pro or in music editing. My, a brother is into music and recording music, and his son is into creating digital music. And they use a program called Ableton, which I've been experimenting with. And it's a fantastic piece of software where you can actually create your own music. You can edit your own music too, but you can create your own music. It's fantastic. It's, that would be an amazing gift for your kids to say, hey, follow your passion and let's go do this. And talking about following your passion, was the year that me and you talked about like Ninja breaking the ESPN, the magazine cover and saying, hey, esports gamers, this is a real thing. And why not set your kids up with a streaming setup? Like teach them how to do it and how to do it appropriately. There's so many videos about not only how to set it up, but to do things appropriately so that you can manage things the right way. So things like needing a laptop, a computer, camera, a microphone, those kinds of things. It might be an expensive thing, but you might already have some of the pieces to kind of get started. And I've seen so many streamers that are really good that just start with basics. Like super basics. It's all about them, you know, their thing and their personality to be able to kind of get going with that.
I actually, Isaac's best friend, Alex, is getting a computer for Christmas. And he knows he's getting it. He's actually, it's funny, he's actually going to spend the night at our house and hang out with Isaac. But I'm going to build Alex's computer with him.
Awesome.
On our kitchen table. So we're going to go to Canada Computers. It's a big kind of computer parts store, and buy all the pieces, the video card, the motherboard, the hard drives, everything you need to put a computer together, the case, everything, power supply. We're going to bring it all back to my house. We'll order pizza, you know, do the things that kids do when they stay overnight.
Experience.
But then Alex and I, and Isaac's gonna watch. We can't build Isaac a computer. This kid has been saving like for a year and a half. He's got $2,000, so he's building a.
Oh wow!
I don't have $2,000 to buy Isaac a computer. I feel a little bit bad, but I mean, if Isaac wants to save, he can buy a computer for sure.
He can do it too. Yeah.
But so we're gonna buy all these parts for Alex. Alex is gonna come over. We're gonna put them all out on the table, and then we're gonna build his computer right. You know, that night he's staying overnight, and he's going to go home the next day with a high-end gaming PC. But we're going to, I explained to his mom the value of teaching a kid how to actually build a computer.
Big time.
Is such a cool experience. Like, I haven't bought a desktop computer in well over 15 years. I've been building my own desktop computers for a long, long time. Not only am I saving money, but I actually find it fun. And when you learn about things like that, you can help your family and your friends, you know, with things with their computers. So I think that it was a fun opportunity to do something that I enjoy, but also, you know, teach Alex how to build computers, and he'll take that skill and use it the rest of his life, probably.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
On my list here, I also had something that maybe people don't think about, and that's musical instruments.
Yeah, I like this one.
I watched one time a music teacher of Lysander, my older son, and he was probably only about 7 or 8 years old. And the music teacher taught them all the kids, how to play the ukulele. And they just played 2 chords. I think they were playing Yellow Submarine by the Beatles, you know? And I was like, oh God, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. He's showing like a 6 or 7-year-old kid, whether they had musical ability, talent, or whatever it might be. He got them all. They're all playing this Yellow Submarine and learning how to strum and hold a chord, 2 chords. And I'm like, yes. So getting your kid a ukulele, $25 entry price. You know, a really good one is about $100. I mean, and that's a really good ukulele. Cheap. Yeah. And awesome to play. The neck is tiny. It plays amazing. You can really learn 2 or 3 chords very easily by holding 1 fret down, 1 finger. Fantastic thing. Or other types of thing. I was also thinking about maybe non-traditional. They're not into, let's say, an acoustic instrument like a guitar or an actual instrument like a trumpet or something else like that. Things like MIDI boards. You may not know what that is, but basically kids could be into electronic music, making their own beats of things. So moving them away from already something digitized that's been made for them. So for example, in GarageBand, fantastic tool, nothing against it, but you can actually make those sounds that come out in GarageBand with a MIDI board. And so they can learn basically pitch of keys and be able to go ahead and make their own sounds and crazy things or whatever it might be, and then be able to go ahead and do something like DJ setups, those kinds of things. And then finally, I was like thinking about this, and it's the thing that me and you are really into, and basically thinking about just take a trip too. maybe during the holiday vacations, but you say, hey, we're going to go do this. And really encouraging you guys to step out of your comfort zones as far as typical family vacation places, because your family vacation could just be somewhere you just haven't visited in your local region. Sure. So there's so many places we don't visit, national parks, just great places to museums, etc. And those experiences are things that you and your kids are going to always remember. Go ahead.
2020 is the year that we travel, like our family travels more, and we start being conscious about that. Isaac and Jacob, neither of them have ever been on an airplane. And
it's gonna be awesome.
I think Cheryl's actually only been on an airplane like twice in her whole life. Okay. Both with me, if I remember correctly, too. So I think 2020 is like we're going to commit to traveling more as a family. We kind of started last summer there when we went to Montreal together, but I think we're hoping to take the whole family to Isti, which is a typical traveling thing because it is Disneyland. But I mean, like I said, the kids have never even been on an airplane before, so that'll be a pretty rad experience. And it's funny because one of the things that speaking to what you were talking about there, Barrie, Ontario has like one of the best junior hockey teams in North America. And I think that we've been to one Barrie Colts game, and I've been living here for over a decade. So like, that's an example of something that and it's not expensive.
Don't take advantage of.
It's not expensive. So I should be doing that kind of thing. The arena, the 5,000, it's just down the road. Like it's 5 minutes from my house to go to the Barrie Colts arena. And there's a restaurant in the arena. Like we could have dinner, we can go to the game, and probably in and out under $200. So it's not like you have to spend like thousands of dollars to go spend some time away from somewhere with your family. You just got to choose to do it, I think is what I'm finding for myself and my family. So hopefully take a trip, people.
Yeah, do it. 2020.
So there it is.
The year of the trip.
Yeah, the year of the trip. Hopefully, anyways. So that was the best. We got nine things, and we'd love to hear what you do this Christmas and coming up. What if you've bought any of this kind of stuff, weigh in, let us know, chat with us on the chat, give us some of your own ideas for things that might be good gifts for learning at home and with your family. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Rachelle Dene Poth, so stay with us.
OnEducation is brought to you by Fidgets. Fidgets are interactive USB sensors that support all major programming languages that make physical computing easy. Fidgets keep the emphasis on coding while increasing student engagement. And the best part is that you can get started for free right now. Simply go to bit.ly/fidgets-on-education to get your introductory kit that includes a free sensor worth over $50. That's bit.ly/fidgets-on-education.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Rachelle Dene Poth is a language and STEM teacher who designed the course What's Next in Emerging Technology. She was selected as one of the 20 to watch by the NSBA. She's a future-ready instructional coach, a Microsoft innovative educator expert, and a Nearpod pioneer. Rachelle will be presenting at FETC 2020 on a number of topics around AI, AR, and VR in the classroom. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I was actually trying to think back to when you were on it before. It was at FETC last year, live.
It was, yeah.
When we were in the hall, which is awesome. And are you, since you're going to FETC, obviously next year, we'll have you back and we'll sit down and chat again, because those chats are always fun. They're a little bit different than these kind of more formal interviews. Those are a blast. So I'm excited to see you in, I guess, a couple weeks, right?
That's crazy. I can't even wrap my head around the fact that what the date is today. I feel like there's just been this time warp over the last 2 months, and it's like, wait, did we already have Thanksgiving or
right?
Yeah, it's time flies for sure.
So for anyone who hasn't met you or is unfamiliar with your work, could you share a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your story, and kind of what has led you to talking to us today?
Yeah, I have always loved learning. And, people are sometimes surprised that just, if I present at a conference and I might present on a topic, because I teach Spanish, so it might be on assessment tools or digital storytelling. And then some of my sessions are on, augmented virtual reality, artificial intelligence. And the biggest thing is when people meet me, they're like, well, how did you become involved in teaching a course on emerging tech or, involved with STEAM? And if it goes back to long ago as a student, I was always fascinated by technology, very interested in learning and seeing how, it can apply to the classroom, both as a student and as a teacher now. But the connection was that with my school, they had gotten a grant to move our library into a makerspace, and teaching foreign languages, French and Spanish both at the time, the A in arts was me. And so that was kind of my entrance into that. And at first, the first 2 years, I was teaching hummingbird robots, which when my principal asked me to teach hummingbirds, I really did not know that they were robots. I thought that they were, in fact, the birds on a deck. And so it was kind of confusing to me. And I didn't admit it to him at the time because I thought, I'm just going to say, yeah, okay, sounds great. And then I went and I Googled it. And so that was the first 2 years. And then over the past, I think this is my 4th year with the emerging tech, just the connections I've had with students and being able to work with them and build relationships has just made such a difference, personally and professionally, but it's pushed me to go out and keep doing things like learning and going to conferences, making connections with people, educators from around the world, because for probably, I'd say, I keep saying the first 15 years of my career, I kept myself highly in isolation, just the choice that I made. And now that, when I can look back on that and see what my life is like for my students, mostly now compared to back then, it's like, wow, I wish I could go back and do it all over again. Because, not only did it impact me personally and professionally, but like the opportunities that I could have had for my students. So people often say, well, what's your investment? What are you so interested in? And it's just keeping myself going and not missing out on opportunities, because you never know when that one thing that you come across or that one interaction you have with somebody is going to be like the one thing that somebody else needs to know. And so I just keep going. And where I am now, I truly would not be had it not been for my law school experience, because I went to law school. I had a mentor who basically, at that point, I probably would have gotten out of teaching. But because of that relationship, it led me to see, teaching differently, the relationship of teachers differently, and really re-engaged me. And ever since then, it's just been a gradual growth process. But the things that I'm doing now, I guarantee I would not have done had it not been for my own relationship with a mentor and then building the relationships with my students.
I'll tell you, that mentor bit is huge. It's big for me too. It's been a huge part of my life and growth as an educator. I mention all the time, Carl Hooker is one of the people that I definitely would call a mentor. I talk to him weekly, even now still. And it's great because we have so much that we can relate to each other. Now, when I first started talking to Carl, he was already doing all of this amazing stuff. And, I find everyone should have a mentor. Everyone should have someone that they feel like they can speak to in a safe way, to talk about the things they're struggling with, talk about the things that they're dealing with, talk about wanting to quit when they want to quit. But then I needed someone that could smack me around a little bit too, because I'm always in so many different places in my head. Mentorship is huge, right? Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's not, wherever you go in education, typically most schools, I believe, do tend to assign the newer teachers, whether you're, first time teaching or new to the building, to have a mentor. So sometimes those are relationships that have been set in place for us. And quite honestly, what I've noticed is just for myself, there have been some where they just kind of formed, and it's not like I have a mentor or I'm a mentor for somebody. It just kind of evolves based on your connections. But, in keeping myself in isolation, like I had mentors, but honestly, I avoided those contacts for, a long period of time because I was struggling as a teacher and I was afraid of the feedback. And, for people to say, or to see, I guess, that, maybe I wasn't doing that great. And now that's something, I wish I could obviously go back and change, but that's what we need those mentors for, is to be able to have somebody to speak to comfortably that's going to be there to support you and not be like, oh yeah, you're the worst teacher ever, but to give you some guidance and to give you the pushback that you need when you need it.
So you're busy, Very busy. I mean, you speak about opportunities and not wanting to miss the window where, you could have that chance to make an impact. And I mean, I'd like to maybe we're going to talk about the books in a little bit, but you've written a number of books, or edited or collaborated with a lot of people on a lot of books. You do sessions at conferences all over the world, all over North America. You have so much going on, and I'm curious, other than that piece that you talked about, not wanting to miss opportunities and stuff like that, what drives you to be as busy as you are? I think everyone's a little bit different. I'm pretty busy myself, and Glen's extremely busy as well, but all of us are a little bit different. I'm curious what motivates you.
Yeah, it's just, part of it is just knowing how many opportunities I missed, years ago. Part of it is, and I think, no matter what we do, it's always going to be the case, right? Like, I wish I had more time, or I wish I would have done this. And so that's a big part of, what makes up my mindset on a daily basis is, I might be tired and I think, I don't really want to go and do this, or I don't want to volunteer time or do something. But then when I think back to then and I think, what's the difference? It's one opportunity, and who knows what kind of an impact it might have on somebody else, on myself. So that's definitely a big piece of it. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, I love learning. I love reading, and I'm curious all the time. And so I have a system that I use every single day that kind of, I wouldn't say it keeps me balanced, but it keeps me kind of going and being able to do a lot of different things. And, that's important to me because I really do want to be a person that, has different ideas and experiences. So if somebody is looking for help, I might not know the answer, but hopefully somewhere along the way, I picked up something, or I know somebody that can help, this other person, if that's the case.
So what's your system? What are you doing? What are you doing every day? What's keeping you? How are you managing all of this?
I do sleep because people ask me all the time.
The
that's
irony is that I don't, so I could use some advice.
And it's not enough, I'm sure, but I've just come up with different hacks and different ways to be a little bit more efficient. Just if I've been really good for probably the last, probably 7 or 8 weeks now, that taking time, getting out of the house after work, on the weekends, and going for a walk. So while I take the walk, sometimes I do just listen to music, but then I feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't just listen to music. I want to catch up on podcasts. So there are certain podcasts I listen to. I might, be doing an email, or writing a blog. And a couple of years ago, Jason Bretzman saw me at Summer Spark, and I was pacing in this room, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Because I was talking to my phone. I said, "I'm writing a blog." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Just using the audio, the voice." Yep. And that is huge for me. That
gigantic.
Is really
I've been doing that too, and it's a game changer.
It is.
John Meehan mentioned that on the podcast a month or two ago, and since then, I'm writing a book, and I'm not near enough done, and it's it changed everything for me to be able to just speak, and then I can go back and edit it later.
Yeah.
But talking the words has helped. It's huge.
It is. And, last year when I was doing a lot of different writing, sometimes I would just open up and I might have, your brain just goes all over the place, but I would go walk in the neighborhood for an hour and I'd come back and I'd have, different parts of different blogs or whatever. And it was sometimes 2,000 or 3,000 words. Granted, you have to really go through carefully and be what was I actually saying here that rhymes with? But as opposed to sitting down and typing it and writing it and all of that. So that type of thing, just the learning, because there's so many opportunities for us to learn on the go now. It's not like you actually have to go and sit somewhere. You can be sitting at home watching a webinar and reading a blog, because we all multitask. Whether or not we're effective at that, we know, but just trying to catch up and do a little bit every single day, or have a routine. When I get up every morning, I set aside a good 30 minutes to just read. So I've been trying to read one book every week and just keep that going. Nice. I read the book Stillness is the Key. Glenn Robbins had given that to speakers. We spoke at the Rewire conference back in October, and I finished reading a couple of weeks ago, and it really is a good reminder of making that time and having some quiet and just being still. So it came at a good time for me to read that, but it is hard to find balance and to kind of stop when you get that momentum going.
Yeah. So speaking of stopping, this is something I struggle with a lot, and I think maybe you can give me and our listeners some advice on this. The idea of saying no has come up a lot for me. I was with Jennifer, our mutual friend Jennifer Casatod in Halifax a couple weeks ago, and we spend a lot of time talking about saying no to more things because you want to be really well, for me, it's because I want to be really effective at the things that I really wanted to do. But I find that the last year or so, I've said yes to almost everything. And it's just starting to wear me out. So I'm thinking a lot about how I can say no more and what I say no to. Because obviously there are lots of really cool opportunities that come up when you write books and you do a lot of speaking and the blogging. You get asked to be pulled in a lot of different directions. So what are your thoughts about what you say no to, what you're saying yes to these days, and why, and kind of that sort of thought process? I'd be interested in hearing your ideas there.
Yeah, I think I need to hear some ideas too, some advice.
We can collaborate. Yeah.
But it is tough because I really do like helping people, and I'm for many years, I wasn't a person that people reached out to ask for, because I was just doing my job and I was just focusing on what I needed to focus on. But now I do get, emails or DMs, and the same as you, and we all do. We get a lot of that. And I think, and it's hard again to do this, but I really have to look at what it is and the time commitment and kind of weigh that against the other commitments that I have and who they're to, something, I probably get anywhere from 10 to 15 emails a day on most days that are asking for, to read over something or to give 15, 20 minutes for a call or something like that. And, 15, 20 minutes, it doesn't seem like that much time, but whenever you have like 7 or 8 of those 15, 20 minutes in the same day, it is. A whole day. And in some cases, what I've done is I've said, I can't really do this right now. I'm interested in it. Could you follow up with me? And I'll look at my calendar and I'll find where I have like a bigger window of time. And I'll say, I'd be happy to look at it. Right now I have these other projects and demands on my time. Or I'm way behind on a deadline, that feeling, right? And say, please follow up with me, because I don't think that I can just flat out say no, without at least giving the time to look at what it is, or even just quickly, I might just glance at something and say, hey, here's my quick thoughts. If you want to follow up with me again in a couple of weeks, please do. But right now I'm kind of, and I'm honest, like I'm overwhelmed with a lot of things. Because, people then tend to know that you're not just saying like, nope, not going to do it, but you have other things going on too. And so I think maybe that's part of it. So it's not like maybe no for now, or it's another one that like, not yet, like saying no, just not yet.
So Rachelle, you run and participate in so many Twitter chats, and I feel like I've learned and connected to so many people on chats. But for those teachers that are reluctant to join or fearful, what are some of the reasons why you would recommend joining in on Twitter and actually joining the chats to get the full experience?
Yeah, it's funny because for years I didn't want anything to do with any social media. No Facebook, definitely no Twitter. I completely misunderstood, the value and that there were these educators on those platforms. And so it's kind of funny. It's a story I tell all the time. Whenever I finally got my account on Twitter, I think it was in 2014, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I came across a hashtag. It was Wiley EdChat. And there were some people in there, and I didn't know where they were either, but they ended up being in Tennessee. And so here's Pennsylvania in a Tennessee chat. I was like, okay, trying to figure out how to work the chat. And, the following year when I went to ISTE in Philly in 2015, we got to meet face to face. But we had already built that relationship, over the prior 6-7 months, and having that first experience, and there were a couple other chats I was in. I was doing, I think at the time it was it SAT? I think it was the West Coast chat. It was like SAT Chat WC. And so I was doing that on Saturdays, and, I did TLAP and I think 1 or 2 more, totally not getting it, but still amazed at just kind of looking at the conversations. Now people were kind of joining in. It can be overwhelming because there are some nights where there's just chats back to back. You got like 3 chats at the same time. But what I've recommended to people, and at least what worked for me initially was finding one chat, connecting just in that and just kind of following along. Or maybe if you don't have, because some of them that are an hour, that's a big time commitment too at night. So maybe setting aside 15 minutes just to check it out, what the conversation is. There's definitely no shortage of recommendations out there. I have some that I could definitely recommend that I'm in.
Sure. Go ahead and drop them right now.
Yeah. Well, let's see. It's Monday. So Formative Chat is one that I have been doing for probably 4 years, and I'm co-host of it. So every week it's a 30-minute chat, 7:30 to 8 Eastern. Lots of different people. Tonight we had a lot of, students currently in their first or second year of college studying education, special education. So that's always nice to get. And also some pre-service teachers coming in too. So that's always good. You got T-Lab, you got EdTech Chat. Barbara Bray has Rethink Learning. I could go through the whole week, and then even like on the weekends, it's nice. Like Saturday mornings, there are a couple chats. They're just 30 minutes. So it's a nice way to start your day. There's, Jerry Cyberman has the whole list of all the chats that are out there too.
Awesome.
But, I think the best advice, just find one, ask friends, or just see what's trending, pick one and just kind of follow through, get the hang of it. But not do it too much to where you're like, all right, it's too much to handle. Like just for a set period of time, just to see how quickly you can learn and connect.
So, first of all, congratulations from both of us about your new book, The Future is Now. And I really enjoy your take on superheroes. And that's what I want you to actually talk about right now, and how you relate them to both educators and our students. And you state educators are superheroes, and I believe that students are superheroes as well. And you have this take on Wonder Woman and some other things that you describe. And can you just talk a little bit about that, the relationship? Because I've heard, unfortunately, the exact opposite kind of take, where people take offense to this. I just enjoyed your take as far as how you actually see a superhero as a regular person doing extraordinary things for the good of others. That's really kind of your interpretation. I'm sorry, I just revealed the whole thing.
You did.
But can you talk more about kind of that whole take, it in your book in general? Can you give our audience like a preview about it, and so that, if they're interested in purchasing, they know what this is about?
Well, it's the Wonder Woman thing. As a kid, that's always what I was watching. I was just fascinated by here she is, this regular woman, and nobody knows who she is. She just she's working, and all of a sudden she just goes and takes care of, whatever it is that needs to be taken care of, or whoever needs to be rescued. And when I was writing that, and I actually came across a sketch note by Sylvia Duckworth a couple of years ago, and it was about superheroes. And so I started to kind of piece these thoughts together. And for me, some of my students, I think they're superheroes because having those relationships and the connections I made with them completely pulled me out of that isolated experience and showed me, to be, gave me the courage to be a little bit, braver, take some risks, because for years, and you're a language teacher too. We want our students to stand up in front of the room and do a presentation. And it's like, what do you mean you don't want to present in front of, these are your classmates. And one year there were these 7th graders that came into a teacher PD session, and they stood up in the front of the room and they were presenting. And I remember sitting there thinking, and I've written about this too, oh my gosh, I would not want to stand in the front of my peers. And I stayed away from that as much as I could. Nope, I'll stick the post-it notes up. I'll pass the papers. I'm not speaking. And that was the first moment for me where I thought you know what? I'm asking them to do things I would not do myself. And just all of that kind of together gave me the courage to start stepping out. But it was by seeing what these students were doing, who were just putting themselves out there. And, like you say about the superheroes, there can be that negative part of it. But I really do think, it's the people that just kind of step in when they need to. It's not like they're asked. It's not they want anything from it. That's my perception of it, of what I consider it to be. And you just kind of just pick something up or help somebody out, and then you just keep going where you were going. And it's not you don't necessarily have some great costume, although that'd be kind of cool. Not gonna lie, I do have some Wonder Woman things like bracelets right now, but you just go about your business. And I think that it's just an innate characteristic or quality that you have this power that could be considered a superhero for whatever your strength is that's helping to lift others up.
Love that.
So I just took a look on while you were talking on the FETC website, and you're so. I mean, this is insane. First off, you're doing 10 sessions, and like Glen's muted and he's laughing.
Holy,
you're doing
that's
10.
insane.
You're doing 10 sessions and a book signing.
Yeah, and there are some things that are not even listed in there right now.
So first off, you're a psychopath. Second off,
in a good way.
In the best possible
Clearly,
way.
Yes.
And all of these sound incredibly interesting. I just before I left the classroom, actually, I was doing a lot of work with infographics and giant, big graphic design projects with information and data on them. I loved talking about that stuff with my kids. And you're doing a session on infographics, so I might actually swing by and take a look at that. But I would love to hear a little bit more about any of these that you're like really geeked up about, and give someone a sell your sessions. Let's talk about these and get some people to come out, because I think you're doing some really cool stuff at FETC.
Thanks. Yeah, the schedule is it's a little overwhelming how that happened, and it's interesting the types of sessions too, because I do have like the artificial intelligence and the AR VR and then the infographics and some on Nearpod, and I'm doing a sandbox, an AR VR sandbox with Jamie Donnelly for a couple hours on that Wednesday. But the things that I share are things that most of which that I've done in my classroom, in my STEAM course with my 8th graders, some of it also in my Spanish classes, because a couple of years ago, my Spanish 2 students were like, hey, how come we don't ever get to do this like augmented virtual reality cool stuff like the 8th graders do? And I didn't have an answer for that. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't really ever think about it. So they're like, okay, we need to do this. And what I found is we did a project using CoSpaces, and I didn't really know what I was doing with them because I'd never used it in Spanish class, but I got this project together. They collaborated. And aside from, creating something that was cool, like the 8th graders at that time, I was amazed that a year later that those students remembered the content, the grammar, and all of the stuff, because it was narrating in past tense, where in Spanish you have the 2 different past tenses. And the fact that they could collaborate and work on the same project. And, I saw them building the collaboration skills, social emotional learning was in there, digital citizenship. It was more meaningful and authentic because they're creating, but then being able to look for different things to put into their project and attach the Spanish word or the meaning, and do all of those other things. Like they built so many skills in that, but the recall on it, I was like, why wasn't I doing this before? So a lot of the things that I present in my sessions are, my stories, but it's actual the student work, or some of it started as my idea, like, hey, here's one way we can use this tool. But over the time that we've used it in my class, students have come up with some really great ideas for using it. A lot of which came about by, I said, well, you know what? I don't really, whatever you want to create is fine. Crossing my fingers, went well, but you want to give them choices. But then, things that I thought, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. I'd have students come in and say, hey, I made my Nearpod lesson, or I did my Bunsey. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, did I do it wrong? And I said, well, I'm not really sure what you did. And so to do like a verb lesson or to do a presentation for project-based learning, these students just decided to use those tools, which we had used collectively before, to make their own project independently. And like, that was not anything that I had ever thought of offering. And so being able to say, hey, having skills in something like PowerPoint is great, but if a student can take something that's like a multimedia tool and put all of these different components in it, that is going to be a skill that they're going to need moving forward. So, my sessions, I give, a lot of practical ideas. I show a lot of examples, tons of resources available. Cause I always say, like, I may not know all the answers because I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody that really likes to do a lot of this stuff. But, so I share, and as often as I can, I get Jamie to come in, or, I go in Jamie's sessions too, because with me in the classroom, and she's just amazing when it comes to the AR VR, to be able to go back and forth. So because in our, the people that come into our sessions, it's not specific to like elementary, middle, higher education or a specific role. Like I can find, sometimes with the help of the people there, ways to make a connection that everybody can walk away with something to use. So that's, most important for me. And then like the infographics one is, more than just like one type of thing that you create. Like what are the different ways we can use this, and how do they build helps students to build the skills for the future, which, I'm still learning as I go is what I always say, trying to brainstorm new ideas. So I like having a mix of sessions just because I get to do so many different things with my students, and I just like to share what they do. I mean, if it weren't for them, I would be that teacher kept in my room for many years ago.
So Rachelle, how can people connect with you, learn more about you, find your book to be able to go ahead and purchase? Tell us anything that's as far as connection.
All right. Well, I am very consistent when it comes to all of the handles and everything. So on Twitter, Instagram, my email, if you add the Gmail, it's always RDENE915, which is very predictable first name or first initial, middle name, birth date. But nobody needs to send any gifts or anything like that, so no worries. But I do have a blog site too, so same thing. It's RDENE915. As far as books, they are on Amazon. I actually have my newest one is coming out this Friday the 13th that I picked as my launch date because it's called Unconventional. And that has a lot of I say great ideas, but it has a lot of ideas, not just mine, but I gathered some examples from some of my educator friends, like of what the projects look like in their classrooms at different levels. They're all available on Amazon. The ones from EduMatch are on EduMatch.
Awesome.
I have a shortened link. It's like the bit.ly, and it's just Poth Books. And that was
Poth Books.
Luckily that was not taken.
Got it.
Takes you right there. But yeah, thanks.
So FETC 2020 is in Miami in January, and you can learn about Rachelle's sessions and still register to attend at fetc.org. Thanks for joining us. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to OnEducation. My name is Glenn Irvin. My co-host is Mike Washburn. OnEducation is part of the Education Podcast Network. You can listen to this show and many others by great educators like Jennifer Gonzalez, Matt Miller, and many more by visiting edupodcastnetwork.com. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website at oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at oneducationpod. Mike is at Mr. Washburn on Twitter, and I can be found at Irv Spanish. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/oneducationpod. We're also on Instagram at oneducationpod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or the Google Play Store. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Classcraft, for supporting us. Check out classcraft.com/oneducation to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening, stay awesome, and see you soon.